Yeah, they've got quite a wall around that place. Well, let's get started, guys. Genesis chapter 30 and verses 25 through 43. Don't think we'll read it today. We've read it. We're in this story, this interaction with Jacob and Laban. Jacob wants to leave. He's now had his 11th son, Joseph, and on that occasion, he asked his father-in-law, he said, I've now served you all these years, and I'd like to take my family and my wives, and we'd like to go strike, and we'd like to do our own thing. Well, Laban's response was, no, I have discerned that the Lord has blessed me because you're here. I want you to stay here so I can remain blessed. And so it sets up this tension, and what I'm calling they're cuffed together in a relationship, and both of them applying what this idea of resistance. And guys, I do mean to beat a dead horse here. And the reason is because you're hearing what is happening inside of me. I could move through this here really quickly, but I think this idea of resistance is such a powerful idea. And I just want to share, I'll share some stories and so forth of how I've become aware of this inside of me. And so I've put together a series of slides here to talk about this, and we're using the story of Jacob and Laban as an example of two people cuffed in a relationship. But yet wanting a different result, wanting something different, and how that it's a natural setup of how we naturally interact as human beings. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And that's what this is kind of the review here, the slides. Simple slide here. Jacob wants to break free. Laban wants him to stay. But yet both are applying this idea of resistance. And a resistance, I've defined it here. Resistance is the application of a force to alter an opposing force. It is the application of force to alter. The whole idea is to alter something else. You get that? That in the physical aspect, in the electrical, I used Ohm's law here. It's the same idea, but now we're going to apply this idea of resistance within the context of human relationships. And so,
So, Mike, there's a saying: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
yeah.
So that's basically what the resistance is.
Yeah, I think that's really good, Alan. And it really really fits with this slide right here, because this is the basic illustration of what's happening. Jacob wants to go. I could write the word, Jacob wants to go here. Laban wants him to stay. Two opposite, Jacob was the action. Laban is the reaction. And so the whole idea of these two arrows, I want to go, so I'm going to apply force. Okay? I mean, this is really simple. Laban says, well, I want you to stay, so I'm going to apply force. Both are applying force outside of themselves. It's the idea that if I can get you to do what I want, then my world will be better. And I'd like to suggest, guys, that this is where most of us interact. This is the level. This is it. This is it. This is where we act. We are intelligent people, but yet when it comes to someone that has something that I want or is doing something that I don't like, my attempt is to apply resistance outside of me in order to cause them to change. Now, where most of this, go, this is so obvious. Why are we talking about this? Because I'm taking us somewhere in this. And it ties exactly in to the gospel of Christ. This is so apparent. We're not even aware we're doing this. And I'm saying this is all we see. For most of us who are dads, when we have our first encounter with our teenagers, we start to become aware of this. Where there's this tug of war going on in a relationship. Yes.
And the framework for this is the book called Parents in Pain, Dealing with Kids. And I don't know where you're going with this, but where my mind is racing with it is back to the old idea of control. And the idea is that our behavior to get someone to conform to us, and our behavior to have good character may look identically the same, but it's how we view the results. If we have a certain type of behavior, kingdom behavior, if you will, for the sake of kingdom behavior, it's its own sake, that can let us rest and sleep at night. And things may not always turn out the way we want. That's not the goal. If we take on kingdom behavior to expect a result, and then we have to force the issue to make it turn out, we're going to be forever bashing head in the walls.
We're going to be really frustrated people.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, do they use the term, quote, kingdom behavior?
No, that's a word I just grabbed,
Okay.
because the bottom line is that's the kind of character we're called. It's character.
But, okay, character. But what I'm hearing you saying is that in this book, that author has kind of defined this picture, maybe in their own words, but this is where we interact. Guys, believers or not, when I'm in conflict with another person, what do? I try to defend myself. I try to bolster my story. I try to build up my data, my story, so I can win the argument. Is that not true? I mean, think about in our domestic relationships with our wives. We lose contact with the bigger picture. We don't even see a bigger picture. All we see is this tug and war, and that's what this picture is depicting. That's where we naturally go, and I think it's just we naturally go there because of our condition as human beings. We want to compete. We want to compare. We want to be contrary. And it's this interaction, this tug of war, this resistance that dominates our relationships. Okay, I've talked enough there, and we don't even see anything else. And the book you're talking about says there is something else. There's something else. There's a place to go here.
In the book, if you're going towards an outcome, if you're an outcome-based person, you may find yourself adjusting your sails out of character to try to achieve the goal and end up having a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Because if it's not going the direction you want to go, you think you're doing something wrong, and you may not be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And okay, that's really good. Right now, point being is that, is there another place to go with this? You guys are thinking, I hope so. Okay. Yes, there is. I've called it the basement. Now, what's in the basement? The basement is most of the time, it's the gray area. And the basement, guys, is out of sight, out of mind. It may be, in your case, a crawl space. And you may not have been down in the basement for years, but the basement exists. And what I'm saying, I'm proposing that within human relationships, the basement is what's informing, it's what's undergirding, it's what's informing my actions above grade. You've got the scene, and this is the scene right here. This is the scene, and this is where most of our human interaction happens. And then, and again, these guys, again, are tugging more. They're cuffed together, and we're going to watch how they interact. They're working at that level to win, but underneath, there are real human needs driving these actions. Okay, and then I've got it here, Jacob's basement, in his basement, what's driving his action, the big arrow going up, is Remember we defined last week, and we had the chart, and you guys said, well, he wants, his human need is esteem. He wants to go out and launch and build his family. It's not bad. It's normal. He's got normal wants as a man and family to get out under Laban's umbrella and start his own thing. That's natural. Esteem. Over on Laban's side, I would say his is a little lower on the little lower on the totem pole there. I think we as a group defined his need as primarily safety. He's seeing that, no, I want to control you. I want to keep you here because when you're here, my life is better. And I think that's how we landed. So we got these two needs. Okay, we got these two needs. There is a basement. There is something informing these actions. But we don't tend to go there because we're so caught up with just defending ourselves and trying to win. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Okay, what I'm suggesting is that there is a door. There is a door that we as men, as human beings, must enter in order to get to the basement. All basements have doors. Crawl spaces have, lift up doors. Yeah, scuttle hole. But there is a way. There's a way that you have to go into this basement. And guys, just to kind of stop here for a minute, over the last several years now, I've just become so keenly aware of how resistance works in my life. Guys, I deal with this all the time in working relationships. Trying to operate and do a business together with other people is a difficult thing. I can honestly say why most of my competitors, most electrical companies, by far are one-man shops with the wife doing because it is really difficult to get beyond a one-guy deal because no one does it the way I do it. I just can't hire good help. That's often what you hear. And it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with a one-man business or one-person business. No, but after been down the road now a few years, I think a bigger issue is trying to get people to operate together. It is a major deal. And those of you who have managed or attempted to operate a business and get different personalities and different perspectives and to show up every day and not be pissed off all the time. It is an amazing deal. It is very difficult. We carry that same idea over to, in our church settings. How many times have I seen people walk through the doors and oh, this is the greatest thing. This is the greatest church, the greatest thing since sliced bread. And 6 months they're gone. Because they've gone to, it's not so great anymore. And when the relationships and the rubs start happening and you start to see the realities of who we are as individuals, I can't take it. I got to go somewhere else. I got to find the answers out there. But guys, I've become so aware of how when I hear an idea of how I can feel the resistance start to creep up, or like it's not going to work, or you always say this, or you're coming from this perspective, and guys, how quick I am to judge and prejudge what's coming out, almost to the point where I'll finish their sentences for them. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys?
You've been there.
Yeah, and so what do? We walk around in a fog, protecting ourselves, and applying this resistance, and we go nowhere, and we're missing what I think is the core of the gospel of transformation, where you and I we want to change out there. Jacob wants to go. Laban wants him to stay. The problem is out there. We somehow it gives our ego a boost when we got this thing out there that we got to change. But I've become so aware, my belief, guys, is that transformation by the power of the gospel starts within.
Mike, can I take that a bit?
Yeah.
different place? I have that. I want to be transformed, and I read the Bible. And I'm trying to transform this stuff, but I'm not gonna. But I'll pick my own areas of transformation because they're where I want to be transformed. What I won't do is I won't pick the areas where I need to be transformed.
Oh.
Other people do that.
Yeah.
And the only way I find out is being thrown in a rock tumbler with them so we can smooth each other's edges off.
Yeah.
And when I hear people say, I love Jesus, but I don't like the church, I think I'm running into people who really don't want to be transformed.
Yeah. I'm landed right there with you. I know if we want to be transformed, it's a death process.
It is.
It's a death. It is a death process. It is not easy,
Some-
and it takes a long time.
I heard a great quote. It says, if you want to know if you have a servant mindset, work with some people who treat you like a servant.
Mm-hmm.
Because we like to serve, it's noble, and people look at us, you're a wonderful servant. But if
Yeah.
you get someone to treat you like a servant,
Uh-huh.
and you still want to be a servant, that's humility, because you're not ennobled at all. It's a kind of idea where if you want to die to yourself, you got to give the knife to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so true. And the reason we're spending these weeks on this is because, guys, I'm at a stage of life where I've just become so keenly aware, at so subtle how it shows up inside of me. And these things got to die.
It's
And when,
admirable at our age, Mike.
what do you mean? What?
Well, I find as I age here, there's parts of me that are becoming brittle. They don't want to change, and I don't want to change them, quite frankly. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a confessional session, but, it makes me think, about a week ago, we were going to Cheyenne to an event. And my mother-in-law was in the car, and we got up there on the high plains there before you get to Cheyenne, and there was a sort of a hobby ranch or whatever it would be, or maybe it's Hardscrabble Acres, place out there. And my mother-in-law said to me, "Who would want to live out there?" And I said to her, "Well, there's probably a lot of people that would like to live there. They like that space between them and their neighbors." And that's sort of the way I am at age 60.
Yeah.
I want some space between me and my neighbors, so to speak. I don't want to work on those
Yeah,
things in
yeah.
a lot of cases. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate your confession, but I think you're speaking for a lot. None of us want to change.
I don't want to get in the rock
And
tumbler
like,
again.
uh-huh. But there's something in life that just keeps us pushing us into that rock tumbler.
Well, I keep bringing up Dallas Willard, but this is his whole last years of his life was. And he wrote that wonderful book, Transformation of the Heart. It's a tremendous book. It's all about what we're talking about. But he also brings up another thing. A lot of Christians think when you launch into the effort to be transformed, you're now earning your salvation. And he makes a real important point. Earning is not the point, it's effort. And we have to put effort. Effort is okay. It requires effort to be transformed. We're talking about, we don't want to do that effort.
Yeah.
But we're not earning ourselves. We've been given salvation. That's settled.
Yeah.
But we think suddenly, now I'm perfect. I've accepted Christ. I even heard a guy that you don't normally hear it yesterday on the radio, MacArthur say, there's effort required. John MacArthur said
Yeah.
this. He said what? There's effort required to be saved even. He just, his point was well made. It's what we're talking about.
I find the effort is, yes, catching myself say, okay, don't judge, just listen, relax, listen. That requires effort. And it's not about applying and doing things in order to be accepted. It's way more about letting go
Right.
and allowing myself to just let go that's where I'm.
Well, like one of his, Dallas Willard is talking about all the disciplines. They're valid,
Uh,
that have been in the church for years.
Yeah.
One is solitude.
yes.
To really experience solitude, you have to look inside when you're
Yeah.
really alone.
Well, and yes, I could go somewhere with that, but I agree. But I just because of
Doors.
time.
The doors.
The door here, the door. I'm saying that we don't. I'm saying our cultural level of interaction is at this higher. Is it what I showed on slide 1, and that there is a basement that exists, that we could go and enter into that basement and be much more in tune with a bigger reality of what's going on in interactions and in relationships. And again, I said earlier, for his dad, some of us become aware of the basement during the teenage years because we've got this little monster there and we don't know what to do, and they're firing all this fire at us and say, you cute little person, where are you? You know, where did you go? And we got all this attack, and the natural response is just to get torqued off and just and interact at that level. But as a dad, we start to realize, we start actually understanding to some level the love of God, and we start, you know, we love this child, and we want interaction. Now, this child may make us very angry and upset. I know, you know, some of us here have had this. But we start to understand that, gee, maybe there is something more here. Well, there is. There's a doorway, and a doorway to the basement. And that doorway, you know, is cracked open, and it's scary down there. You know, it takes. What do you think it takes to get down there, guys?
Light.
Courage. What?
Well, light.
Yeah, go turn the light on. Well, yeah, these are all really good answers. And that's kind of where this next slide. What keeps you and I from going down into that basement? It's there. What keeps us from going down there?
Security, the safety that Laban was dealing with.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And it's, you know, the one term could be called ego. Is that ego loves security, safety, the status quo, to maintain things the way it is. It takes effort. It takes effort. It takes courage to open that door. And guys, we're missing one word here. And
Mine is awareness. I mean, I gotta be aware there is a basement. Sometimes I'm responding so off the cuff, I'm unaware of why I'm
Yeah.
the way I am.
yeah, and that's been the story of my life. It's just, this is why at this age 61, Steve, I've become, there is a basement. There's just so much more here in human interactions and what's going on. There's just so much more, and how I'm much more aware of that door. At least I know the door's there now. I know the basement's there. Now, whether I go through there, whether I go down there to really get to the heart of the issues is now a matter of choice. For a lot of years, I wasn't even aware. But now I am aware, and you're aware. And what does it require? It requires these things. But guys, it requires faith. This is an illustration of dying to ourselves. The willingness to go over to the door and walk to the basement. And it's dark down there, and it's scary. And it always feels like falling. It always feels like failure. It will always feel that way. I'm being taken advantage of. Well, so what? You know, is it between? You know, you look like a fool. So what? But to go down into that basement, into that darkness. But when we do, guys, when we do, what is the promise of dying on the cross? What follows death on a cross? A resurrection.
That's right.
A resurrection. You know, I just watched the movie Unbroken. And I really, of course, I watch movies through this through perspective. And, you know, was his name Louis? Yeah, and a good story, a wonderful story. But God, what this man went through, the abuse, and how earlier on his motivation was to kill the commander. This guy that was trying to bolster his own ego through just bullying others. But his process of transformation was one of acceptance and embracing. And I've known, and the big scene at the end, he almost became invincible. Even he was so physically weak, but he had been so broken. And what's so ironic, they called the movie Unbroken. I think his whole process was being broken.
If you hadn't read,
And he became invincible.
if you hadn't read the book, he was going downhill in alcoholism seriously, and he attended the Billy Graham rally. And that's where he turned his life around radically.
I mean, prior.
That's what, after this, after the
Yeah.
war, he was Mary Simmons going on the tubes, and why they got to the movie, there were some interesting issues, but that was transformative to him, to taking his life around. I'm sorry they left that out of the movie, but it was a serious point of conversion, really.
Yeah, was that after his tour of duty? It was that
Oh, yeah,
after
this-
the
yeah, this way
pre-imprisonment?
back. He's
Well,
coming up.
you know, but even I know there's more to the story, but even this story really
So-
depicted the idea of how he was able to survive these atrocities was through this process of being broken. And I would venture to say, guys, I don't know, I'll just throw this out here. Our natural tendency is resistance. To resist, to not go to the basement. But counter to that, and it's a language for dying to self, is the idea of embracing. The opposite of resistance is embracing. And I would venture to say that if you and I can learn to embrace, and I would say almost everything, anything, that if we have the ability, if we can surrender to the point where we can embrace, and I would say almost anything, it will transform us. I've seen it, glimpses of it in my life. I'm not saying I'm fully transformed by any means, but I know what I want. I've thirsted for it, and it doesn't come through winning. It comes by allowing ourselves to be conquered and through embracing. And that's what the picture of the door is going to the basement. So I'm going to leave one thing with you, because next week I want to go on. This is a little exercise that I'll leave with you, and we got just a couple minutes, and I'd like each of you to look at this, thoughtfully for a moment. And I'd like for each of you to plot. Now, you don't have to tell anybody where you are in relation to the subject of resistance. And there are 4 plots along this. Clear over here. And there is a reason why I put them in this order. But over here is, do I approach relationships as my way or the highway? Either do it my way, or I reject you, and it's, and whether you're a Christian or not, I mean, you can be a very narrow-minded believer in Jesus, and you truly not get it. My way or the highway. That's one option of where we are in life. And this would depict a person that really has got hardening of the categories, and it's my way or the highway.
Jesus is my co-pilot.
Yeah, there you go. That would be one expression. Okay, and then over here, this next one, as we move across, I'm at a point in life where I'm able to state my position in an interaction, in a disagreement, but I'm really, inwardly, I can really embrace the outcome. Okay, I'm able to state it, but then I'm able to embrace whatever outcome, and this is what I think kind of what you're talking about in this book. So that's one state. The next one over here is I'm outwardly agreeable. I've always got a smile on my face, but inwardly, I'm resentful. You know, I'll get you back. This is where I'd plot Jacob in this interaction. You know, he's got this whole thing set up, but he is setting it up. He says, I'll get you back. Okay, right here. Outwardly agreeable, inwardly resentful. Right here. And then the last one is, I'm unable to state it. When it comes to human disagreement and interaction, I'm like Jello. I can't state my position. I don't know my position, and I am resentful with the outcome. Truly the victim here. Truly a very a position of very low power in any kind of relationship. So these are hard things. You know, these are difficult decisions, but I'd like each of you to make that assessment. And where do I tend to land in relation to this idea of resistance? And then we ask ourselves, like Dr. Phil, how is it working for you? All right, guys, that's it for this. Have a good rest of the week.
Thanks, Mike, that's great.